Hi friends!
Hi friends!
I have my brother-in-law here with me today, and he makes the most amazing Mexican food. And so I talked him into going grocery shopping with me, and then we gathered up all kinds of amazing ingredients, and we have an incredible Mexican meal tonight. What are we eating?
So we're gonna eat some red chili that we made with Melanie's
Canned meat.
the canned meat. That's right, the canned meat. We got some pico de gallo here. We have some green salsa made from tomatillos. We have some guacamole. We have some roasted peppers that we're gonna eat with that meat. We have some calabacita.
Oh, it's so good. I'm so excited about this. So we're gonna share some tips and tricks, and we're gonna tease you with some of these because it's not a full tutorial, but we wanted to show you just some of this authentic food and give you some of the tricks on how to really get that depth of flavor and to use stuff. You know, we've had several people that have said, now what are you gonna do with all that canned meat now that you've got it all made? What can you do with that? So we're gonna showcase some of that and some of your garden veggies that you've got just starting to grow, to give you some ideas of how to pull it all together into a meal.
Yep, let's do it.
All right. What kind of tomatoes do you like for pico?
I like Roma tomatoes. Well, so you want them to at least be whole. You don't want like little clumpy ones, because then when you clean them out, they just break apart, fall apart. So if they're like long and whole like this, they seem to stay together pretty good.
Okay.
What we're gonna do, we're gonna boil these, take the membranes out, and then we'll blend them with some meat juice to make the sauce. So these are the tomatillos for the tomatilla salsa. And what I like to do is I like to just open them up to make sure that there's no insect holes in here or anything like that. And I also try to find more of a medium range. That way it doesn't take so long to peel them. And then the flavor seems to be pretty nice in the medium sized ones. The small ones are too bitter, the big ones kind of lose flavor.
So there's not really a recipe for pico, right?
No, there's really not a recipe for pico.
So what's the secret?
The secret is tasting it as you make it. When I grew up and my parents made pico, there was no measurements. You just made it as you went and you tasted it to make sure that the consistency was right to how you wanted it. So, same thing I do now. I make sure it looks pretty balanced as far as the cuts, tomatoes, onions, cilantro, and jalapenos, but I taste it along the way. And you know, when it tastes right, I know it's done.
So I tried and tried and tried to learn how to make this, and my husband thought it was awful for several months, but I was real stubborn and stuck with it. And the way that I always think about it's more of a ratio than a recipe, right?
That's correct.
And the thing that I always look at when I look at it is like, as long as it looks like the Mexican flag, then you're good to go, right?
That'll work.
Pretty equal parts.
Pretty equal parts, right? Yeah, you want that balance, right? You don't want more tomato than onion, more onion than tomato, more cilantro. Everything should be pretty balanced out while making this.
Okay, tell me about the salt.
So with salt, like anything else, you don't want to over salt anything. With salsa in particular, it's it's a little tricky because everybody has their own taste for salt, and the tomatoes end up absorbing a lot of the salt that we put in there initially. So just keep it pretty mild. You can always salt it later, and that way you won't have over salted salsa. Gonna attempt to make calabacitas. I like to put the red peppers in first because it takes them a little bit longer to soften. So we're going to make some tomatillo salsa. Basically, the salsa is pretty easy to make, simple recipe. What happens is that you take quite a bit of tomatillos, boil them with the chilies that you love, and with chilies experiment, because they all taste different. It's basically what you like. Once you get them boiled for about 10 minutes, the next step is going to be to blend them. You're going to put in about 1/4 to 1/2 an onion, at least 2 garlics, an avocado, some cilantro, and salt to taste. It's your taste, so put as much salt or as little salt as you want. You can always put more. Anything you cook Mexican, a creamy base to them, it gives it like a limey taste, but it's creamy. It's really crazy how like it mixes in and blends in the flavors. Similar to how like tomato does if you have a lot of it and let it concentrate. But tomatillos have like a gumminess to them. It's really interesting. So one thing I really like to do is, as I'm blending the tomatoes and the chili that we're boiling, I like to leave the blender on. And the reason being is because it still continues to blend with everything while I'm adding in the other ingredients, which is going to be the cilantro, the avocado, the garlic, and the onion. That way the consistency stays really creamy and the flavor mixes in really nicely.
Make this dinner really quick. We're pulling out some of the jars of beef that we canned on the last video, and we had a lot of questions about, well, how do you use that meat? So this is one of the ways. And another question that I had a bunch of were, well, what do you do with it? Does it absorb flavors still? Can you still season it? And I can it without any salt or anything in it, and I do all of the seasoning when I use it, so it really does still absorb all that flavor.
Yeah, so I just rinsed the chili pods. They're a little bit dirty since we bought them in bulk. And so what we're basically going to do right now is make the red sauce for the chili, and meat. And so what I'm going to do first is just boil them in water. A lot of people, especially my family, they tend to toast the pods first over the oven, but just be careful when you do that because they cook really quick and they get a little bit smoky. It gives you, your throat chokes a little bit on it. So I tend to bypass that step. I don't think it changes the flavor at all. So I'm just going to throw them on the boiling water. This is what the chili will look like after it's been boiling for about 10 minutes. What you're going to want to do next is go ahead and take them out, de-seed them, take out all the seed and the membrane, all this stuff out. All of this stuff out, and just put the actual skin part in the blender with the cilantro, the fresh herbs, and the garlic cloves. And normally I would put in some of the water to get that blending going, but in this case we have a little bit extra broth for the beef that we're going to use in that process. Alright Mel, so we made the pico. Why don't you try it a little bit and tell me what you think?
Oh, I can't wait. It's so good. I make this all the time for my husband. Somehow you always make it better.
I'm glad you like it.
Okay, so what's your favorite?
One of my favorites is actually mixing the pico and the green salsa together, like this.
Good.
That way you get both the spiciness of it and the liminess of the pico.
You guys, thank you so much for being here. This was so much fun to have Javier here in the kitchen with us all the way from Arizona, and I'm so glad you were able to join us as we cooked up this beautiful Mexican food dinner, and now we're gonna go eat.
Awesome, let's do it.
It's so funny how you're
I'm trying to say like you should try it, but I think I was gonna fly out of my mouth.
An adventure. I learned so much today. Mom, go pee.